This is Brass Check, and we're commenting on the Alexandria, Virginia shooting. We actually wrote and published these notes to our subscribers the day it happened, but people like videos, so we're making a little video to make it easier. Here's some common sense questions. First, imagine instead of this being Republican congressmen, imagine it was a group of, mafia family taking some time out to play softball or baseball. I don't know that mafia guys do such things, but you know what I mean. They're hanging around, whatever, and some guy starts shooting at them. Do you think that they would assume it was just a lone nut? Do you think, Rocco would say, yeah, it's just some crazy guy? No, the question would be, hey, what's going on here? What's behind this? Now, you may say, well, the Congress and the Republicans and the Democrats, they're not mafiosi. Well, let's take a look at this. First of all, living in a van. This guy, the supposed shooter, was living in a van in Alexandria, Virginia for about 3 months. Now, you may not know what Alexandria, Virginia is all about. Well, you could be in the finest part of Washington, D.C., just walk across a bridge and be in Alexandria, Virginia. Alexandria, Virginia is a high-rent district. Okay, think of the high-rent districts that you know, Greenwich, Connecticut, Palo Alto, California, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that those cities let people live in their vans? Do a little Googling. I did. There are hundreds of cities that specifically prohibit people from sleeping in their cars. Now, maybe Alexandria doesn't have a traffic enforcement or parking enforcement department. Well, I looked that up. They got a big one, and they're proud of it. And they've got their own website. So this is something very strange. And not only was he living in his van for months on end, unharassed. I mean, I can't even drive down the street in my little village without getting pulled over for, one thing or another. But this guy can live in a van in Alexandria, Virginia for months on end by the baseball field where Republican congressmen play baseball. Nobody, no cop, these cops that have endless amounts of time on their hand to harass everybody. Nobody knocked on his window and asked him who he was and what he was doing. Apparently not. It's just a live and let live society down there in old Alexandria, Virginia. It's strange. It's strange. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. What else is strange about this event? Well, there is absolutely no still shot or video image of the guy who ended up dead actually doing the shooting. We know this guy's dead body ended up there. I'm sure there were some guns all around him, but there's no picture of him doing it. You may say, well, what's the big deal? They don't have video surveillance in Alexandria, Virginia? There's no video surveillance of him walking from the YMCA, being in the YMCA that morning with his bag. Apparently he carried this bag everywhere he went. They called it a gym bag. They got no photos of him, no video, nothing. Well, they don't. They have no video camera in that park. Alexandria, Virginia, where congressmen play baseball. They can't afford it. Maybe it's true. I don't know. But they don't have it. There, you will not see a still picture or a video of this guy in action. Where's the picture of his guns? Don't cops love to grab these guns and hold them up and show, hey, here it is. It's his AK-47. It's his Glock, whatever it was. Nothing. Nothing. No pictures. Maybe, now it's a couple of days later, maybe they're talking about the actual guns he had. Did the gun demonizers, go on a rampage about how horrible this was? We got to get rid of guns? I missed it if they did. News media controls all that. Those rampages don't happen without news media control. They let this one go. Again, the gym bag. Have you ever tried to put a rifle in a gym bag? I mean, you put a rifle in a rifle case. Or, if it's a soft case, it's long. It's not a gym bag. Nobody carries, unless they're playing hockey, they're not carrying bags long enough to carry a rifle. But they say that he had his gym bag at the YMCA and he asked where the Republicans were. And then, he had to ask. And then he walked across the street and 5 minutes later he was shooting everybody. Okay, maybe it happened that way. But we have no picture of the guns. We have no picture of the bag. We have no video of him at the YMCA. We have no surveillance video of him anywhere in the area. We have no pictures of him shooting. We do have this sort of shaky cell phone video that shows absolutely nothing. And not only did nobody see him, but nobody even knew where the shooting was coming from. Now, that's not totally, unacceptable. I mean, this definitely can be confusing. But nobody saw him. Nobody knew where the shooting was coming from. There's no pictures of him. The media is not talking about his bag or anything, or the guns that he left. So what do we know? We know some people got shot. We got a very shaky phone video showing a whole lot of nothing. We have eyewitness accounts, very dramatic. None of them saw this guy. And as I said earlier, they couldn't even tell where the shots were coming from. And we have this dead guy, a loner, a nut. I assume there were guns at his feet and his big, humongous gym bag. Now, there's more to this. There were 3 cops on the scene. 2 of them got very minor injuries. Hey, still, it's not fun to be shot. The injuries were minor. They're out and about. The 3rd cop was the guy that nailed him. Now, the two cops, a man and a woman, they didn't see the guy. They were taken out very early. So they're not witnesses. The guy that shot him, they name him, but they don't really talk much about him. They talk a whole lot about the 2 cops that were shot. Oh, she did this, and he did that, and he's from Brazil, and he always wanted to be a cop, and she used to play basketball, and I think she's a lesbian. I mean, it's just endless. The guy that did the actual shooting, nada. And this guy could shoot. Get the dimensions on a baseball field. He shot across the infield. That's about 100 feet, maybe a little more, with a handgun under real combat conditions. Not just someone yelling in your ear, but someone shooting at you, and injured people lying in the infield. That's combat. That's adrenaline. Hitting somebody with a handgun from 100 feet, in that kind of circumstance, you're a really, really, really good shot. Most cops can't even hit somebody at 20 feet. They can barely hit a target at 20 feet in their gun range. So the guy's way up in the 1%ers of combat shooting. And they don't talk about him at all. They're not lauding him. They're not talking about, at least right now. I don't know what they're going to do later. But, nobody's putting his picture on the front cover of Time magazine, Hero of the Year. Nothing. Now, today, and it's one of the motivations for me reporting this, they found a list in his pocket of all the people he planned to shoot. Okay, took a day, took over 24 hours to report that. This just so much reminds me of Arthur Bremer, and of course he was political. This was a political shooting. May have been a political shooting by a nut, or that's how it's being represented, but this was a political shooting. And look what it accomplished. Number one, anybody who disparages Donald Trump now is considered a dangerous person, right? This guy disparaged Donald Trump. He went and shot a bunch of representatives. Right? So that's kind of a positive thing for certain forces. What else happened? Well, the predatory Republicans, and I'm not a Democrat, believe me, I think the Democrats should all be put on a boat out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and leave them out there. There's not one that I like. It's a horror show on both sides. But you got to admit, Republicans are some pretty hardcore predators. But now, they're victims. They're under attack. Oh, interesting dynamic, huh? And Trump, who the day before was spiraling down into oblivion, completely unable to pull himself out. You remember those hearings? I mean, And even a day later, the shooting didn't help him. But it got him out of the downward spiral for a day. Function. There's function there. We really, and the pièce de résistance of this whole thing is they're blaming it on Bernie Sanders. Because the guy apparently volunteered for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Wow. Him and a million other people. And the New York Times had to take Bernie Sanders to task for his angry rhetoric. Really? Really? Somebody did 30 years, they went back 30 years and analyzed every utterance, public utterance by Bernie Sanders over the last 30 years. There's no violent rhetoric. There's not even any impolite rhetoric. He calls things like he sees them, but as a man in control of his tongue, does not use violent imagery, does not encourage violence. And yet the New York freaking Times felt it necessary to point out that, wow, this Bernie Sanders guys, the Bernie bros, they're real, So, I don't know. As always, I don't know what happened, but I think the reality of this story is probably some kind of smoke and mirrors. That guy, they knew he was there. The cops knew he was there for months, right? And I'm sure anybody that wanted to do some mayhem knew he was there for months. You don't think he was just standing there watching the game? And maybe somebody shot him and then proceeded to shoot everybody else and then walked away, leaving this guy with guns at his feet and now a list of targets in his pocket. Do you realize how easy that would be to do? Do you remember? Do you know that Robert F. Kennedy was shot in the back of the head at close range? That's the coroner's report. That's not a conspiracy theory. Powder burns on the back of his head. Sirhan Sirhan was 10 feet in front of him. And, they counted the number of shots. I mean, somebody put a gun to the back of Robert Kennedy's head and pulled the trigger in the middle of all that mayhem and walked away. It's not that hard to do. In this whole routine of having a crazy guy do the murder is very well practiced art. The mafia may have even invented it. It was used against Joe Colombo at Columbus Circle in Manhattan on Columbus Day back in the 70s. They hired a black guy. Somebody hired a black guy to take pictures. Hey, buddy, here's, he's down on his luck. Here's some bucks. You're a photographer. Hey, I need to hire you to take pictures of Joe Bonanno. So he went. It was a job. Well, Bonanno ended up getting shot, and then somebody shot this dude and dropped a gun at his feet and walked away. And this guy had zero motivation to shoot Colombo. Zero. So he's a patsy. So I don't know what happened in Alexandria, but I do know you can't live in a van in Alexandria, Virginia for 3 months, parked next to the ballpark where congressmen play baseball without attracting attention of the police. I do know there's no photographs of this guy doing the shooting. There's no video. There's no surveillance photo of him walking around that day, walking from the YMCA to the spot. If he had a rifle in his bag, he had a hell of a bag. And it's funny that nobody commented on that. People accept these things, and even I do. I mean, the first couple of minutes, I'm like, wow, that's wild. I wonder if there's a picture. Gee, there's no picture. Where's his guns? There's no guns. Where's the surveillance of him walking out of the YMCA that morning? They don't have that. But Bernie Sanders is a bad guy. We know that. We know that. Don't propose to know what's going on. Don't suppose I know what's going on. But I do know that this would have been very easy for a group to pull off. And you can't assume that it happened the way you've been told that it happened. So that's the Brass Check Report, giving you news and analysis that apparently nobody else can manage. Thanks for listening. For all our supporters, Thank you for supporting us. We've been doing this for 20 years. 20 years. We got started the same year as Drudge. I think Matt Drudge maybe got a little bit more of a help from the mass media than we did. I think maybe our reporting is a little bit more insightful than Matt Drudge's. Do you think it's a coincidence that he's a massive public figure making millions of dollars every year, and we struggle along with our sites getting hacked constantly, our emails not getting delivered? But anyway, I don't mind. This has always been a hobby, not a profession for me. However, we do have costs. We have server costs every month. We have email delivery costs every month. There's so many problems with the site now. I got to hire a technical kid to help me. He's on payroll to do it. I get paid nada, but it would be nice to not have to pay to work to do this for you. And I think this is a public service. And again, search the internet. You might hear some wild-eyed, raving conspiracy theories. I'm not putting one of those forward. I'm asking the common sense questions that nobody else seems to get around to asking. That's what Brass Check does. That's what Brass Check has always done. So thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. If you want to support us, go to BrassCheckTV.com, and in the upper right-hand of the screen, there's a little button that says Donate. If you can afford it, hey, listen, if you can't, that's all right. Just share the links. Your moral support is more than enough. But if you value this, there's a cost to it, and it hits me every month, and I could use some help with it. That's Brass Check over now. Good luck to you and with everything you're doing.